Mm. Mine has the same fine.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Executive Administration Committee here on June 5th, 2024. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Committee or public comments? Did we have anybody from the public online? One. Any comments? No? Any comments from the committee members?
I have none.
I'm seeing people's heads shaking. All right. Organizational chart revisions. Please proceed. Is that you, George?
I guess so. You see before you a new organizational chart reflecting latest people that work here in our latest organization. So anybody want to summarize any significant changes, since I would probably not do a good job at that?
Yeah, the only changes currently on there are in yellow. And it is title changes as well as moving the Amber under me rather than George. That way she can circulate around and fill in where she needs to around the offices here.
Okay.
Where's Miss Miliano? Oh, there she is, up at the top. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Amber does, yeah. Yeah, Lauren has a new job title as well to reflect her HR responsibilities.
Okay.
Does this need to be approved?
I think it needs a recommendation for approval by the board.
I recommend that we approve this with the correction for Miss Manning's new last name.
Okay. So we approve, the committee approves this. Recommends approval by the board, sorry. Just a side question to our HR specialist. Do Director Boyd or I have any mandatory training coming up?
You are all caught up for the year. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I'm impressed.
Well, one of them lasts 4 hours and you have to time it just right.
Well, you missed our workplace violence prevention plan training, which was extraordinarily exciting.
Very good. Job description revisions. How about that? Who's on that one?
I'll just comment, we revised some of the job descriptions based on the recommendation of staff. Anything significant to mention in these?
The biggest changes so far are jobs that no longer fall under the category for drug screening that have been removed from the job description, and ones that still fall under DOT that has been added to it. Those are the major changes.
Okay.
So the ones that no longer have drug testing requirements, are we carefully watching who's applying for those?
We're not letting former board members do it if that's what you're.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Wow.
So, with that said, I think we're just following standard California regulation protocol.
Can't ask
So
them.
who does not get
You
drug tested.
can't ask your accountant if they've embezzled anybody in the past or anything like
Oh,
that.
no.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the change for associate engineer. I don't, at the very bitty end. Oh, look, there it is. And drug screen. Okay. Director Boyd, any objection to recommending these for approval?
No, I'm sure they're spotless.
Okay, then we shall recommend that. Thank you. And here's the much anticipated workplace violence protection prevention plan. Who gets to tackle this one? It's the changes are all in red. Clients, patients, students, inmates, or visitors have been removed. and replaced by visitors or contractors.
I find red text a little bit violent myself.
Disciplining employees, or appointed or elected officials. So it's no longer the duty of the staff to discipline the directors. Is that my understanding? It's probably a good policy.
So the policy just follows the state guidelines, of course.
Yeah.
All employees have been trained, which is mandatory before the inception of it and on July 1st. So we're just looking for the board to recommend or the board to approve that we adopt this policy.
This is minor
Plan.
changes, just calling out the people.
This is,
Is it brand new?
Yes.
Brand spanking new?
Yep. the
How
new
diff, is it,
California requirements.
so had we a policy like this prior to this one? So this is pulled right down off of the state.
this is following their verbiage and
It was
guidelines
essentially a state template that we modified for our purposes, correct?
Prohibited acts.
from OSHA, Cal OSHA.
Cal OSHA.
On a quick read, I don't see the words hostile workplace mentioned anywhere, which I think are part of the county.
Both verbal and nonverbal conduct that causes a person to fear for their safety.
Up there, workforce harass, or what do they call it? What will we had a discussion with the supervisor
Yeah, we did.
years ago.
Ho-
What did we categorize?
Hostile work
Hostile
environment.
Work environment.
Yeah.
It seemed to be something that was highlighted in the county code
Okay.
specifically that we referenced. I don't know if that's,
So does hostile work environment, does that necessarily, do we have a hostile work environment policy?
We currently have an anti-harassment policy in place.
I probably think it falls
So
under
you-
that.
probably does.
Okay.
In my former job, I had to deal with a number of hostile work environment complaints typically they're between employees or between an employee and a supervisor. And there are, generally you get when that is a claim made by an employee, it is typically turned over to the HR professionals and the legal team to sort of work your way through it. So generally I don't know if you have as much a policy as that it is a right of a person to say they feel like they're in a hostile work environment, and then there was a legal process to determine if corrective actions need to be taken or whether the complaint is not legitimate.
The state law requires policies and procedures for any organization or employer.
This one.
We just want to make sure that it's in there. And if it's in the harassment policy, then we're good to go.
We do
Okay.
have something like that already established in our personnel manual. This is in addition to.
Yes.
This is more threatening environments and
Throwing hands,
customers and yeah.
yelling, picking people up off the ground.
Yes,
who
but the
aren't
district
needing
doesn't
that.
have a hostile work environment.
Perfect.
Yeah, they already have one of those in place.
Then I think you've addressed Director Boyd's concern.
Think so. I'm
Would
happy.
you like to recommend this to the board for approval?
I think I should recommend this for the board for approval.
We have
Okay.
one public comment.
Do we have a?
Go ahead, public, please state your name and place of residence.
Yes, Renee Westalusk, Ridgecrest, California.
Hi, Renee.
Hi, I just have a couple questions. Okay, when Mr. Kroll said, I guess if there is an incident, not necessarily maybe that escalated to violence, but if misbehavior or something, you hand it over to HR or personnel management and the attorneys. Is that the way it's handled?
So typically the person who feels that they have been wronged can make a complaint, or if there's an employee who's seen some behavior that feels that falls under restrictions against harassment and so forth, then the complaint is made to the HR department, and then HR goes through a series of processes and procedures to get all the information necessary. And if the issue needs to be addressed legally, then that's something later on down. But the start of the process is there's a complaint made and HR processes the complaint and initiates an investigation.
So the board members don't really have any involvement, correct?
That is correct. That is internal to the organization. The board members might be notified if there's an issue, but they have nothing to do with that process. They keep their noses out of it.
Yeah. And that
And
would-
if the issue is somebody on the board is misbehaving, that's handled at a different level.
And I think our HR specialists would concur that there are certain rights to privacy associated with those type of complaints as well, so that, it's not necessarily public information when it occurs.
Correct. Okay. And then my other question is, if, I'm just doing a hypothetical here, if the water district did not adopt these state guidelines, what are the risks? I'm just speculating here.
Well, that's pretty hypothetical because it's a state guideline, and so we are going to adopt it.
Right.
It
But if-
puts your organization at risk for probably fines and penalties.
Yeah, fines, penalties, it opens the district up for liability to lawsuits.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that said, these policies and procedures do not necessarily insulate you from lawsuits, but it does help you to address the fact that you are doing due diligence. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the draft agenda for the regular board meeting. Thank you again, Renee. Let's give it a quick perusal.
The description of that presentation by Clean Energy Capital should probably say estimated cost for imported water pipeline instead of just pipeline, in my opinion.
Okay. So for the description, you want to add the word for the imported
Imported water.
water pipeline. Okay, if you could make that change, please. To that. Do you see any changes? Director Boyd,
No, it looks complete to me.
are there any changes that anybody else on the committee would like to have made? Okay, then I'm looking for a recommendation to, but let's go ahead and go with this, we'll go with this agenda with the previous recommended change.
So recommend.
All right. For, any comments from the public? All right. Future agenda items, number 7. Anybody have anything for the agenda for the future? All right, I don't see anything. Then why don't we go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 2:12 p.m. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Okay, who had their money on 212?
12 minutes on the nose.
You were right, my God.